This region sees more rain than almost anywhere on Earth and holds more unique species per square mile than the Amazon. Yet it remains one of Colombia's most sparsely populated areas. The Colombian Pacific coast, especially the Choco department, stretches over 800 miles along the western edge of the country. It's a land of winding rivers, towering jungle mountains, and sprawling mangroves that meet the Pacific Ocean. Ecologists call it a global treasure, home to jaguars, spider monkeys, and thousands of species that live nowhere else. And culturally, it's just as rich. The region's people, mostly of African descent, have kept centuries-old traditions alive, from music and dance to food and language. But here's the paradox. Despite all this natural and cultural wealth, and very few people live here, the reasons run deep. In this video, we're going to explore those reasons, one by one. Extreme climate and challenging geography. One big reason why so few people live on Colombia's Pacific coast is the extreme climate and the hard-to-reach land. This area isn't just rainy, it holds the highest rainfall record in the world, with some parts getting over 9,000 millimeters of rain each year. And unlike most places, there's no dry season here. It rains almost all the time. The air stays hot and very humid, around 26 degrees Celsius. That's about 79 degrees Fahrenheit, with humidity at 85% on average. All that constant moisture makes life difficult. Roads get damaged fast, buildings don't last long, farming is limited, floods are common. Then there's the land itself. The coast is covered in thick jungle, wide rivers, deep swamps, and tangled mangrove forests. And to the east, the Cordillera Occidental Mountains rise up, creating a steep barrier that cuts the region off from the rest of the country. That's why, even with all its beauty, this part of Colombia remains so empty. High frequency of natural disasters. Another reason why Colombia's Pacific coast has so few people is because of how dangerous the land can be. This region, especially Choco, faces a high risk of natural disasters, and that risk is constant. Flooding is the biggest threat. With so much rain and so many rivers, the water often spills over, flooding homes, roads, and farms. In November 2021, floods hit nearly 3,500 households, with water rising all the way up to people's necks. Then, in 2024, floods affected over 100,000 people. That's about 1 out of every 5 people living in Choco. Homes were destroyed, crops and animals were lost, schools were damaged. And it doesn't stop there. Landslides are another big danger. The land here is steep and wet, and when people build homes on unstable hillsides, the ground can suddenly give way. Some landslides move slowly, then collapse without warning, blocking roads, wiping out villages, and putting lives at risk. Because of these dangers, entire communities have had to move to higher ground. In fact, there are programs that buy out flood-prone homes and help people relocate. But with climate change, things are only getting worse. Storms are stronger, rains are heavier, and the dry seasons are hotter, making planning for the future even harder. Living in a place that floods every few years or where the ground can slide beneath you makes it very difficult for people to stay long-term. Severe infrastructure deficiencies. In rural areas of Choco, roads are almost non-existent. Many communities can only get around by boat, using the rivers as highways. There's a road that connects Choco's capital, Quibdó, to Medellin, but it was first laid out back in 1967, and even today, it's dangerous and unreliable. There are big plans at the national level, billions of dollars promised for new roads and rail systems. But most of that money goes to big cities. While Buenaventura is the main Pacific port, the rest of the coastline has little to no development, and building new ports, like the one proposed in Tribuga, comes with major environmental risks. In many towns, people still don't have clean water or electricity, even in places where it rains nearly every day. In Medio San Juan, 90% of homes lack proper water or sanitation. And in Quibdó, the largest city in the region, most people still can't count on safe drinking water. With so little support, it's hard for businesses to grow, for families to stay healthy, or for communities to feel connected to the rest of the country. Pervasive poverty and economic underdevelopment. But behind all of that lies something even deeper: poverty. Choco is the poorest region in all of Colombia. Almost 80% of its people live in extreme poverty, and many without clean water, enough food, healthcare, or even access to school. Back in 2020, The poverty rate here was 64.6%, much higher than the national average, and the effects are heartbreaking. People in Choco live, on average, 12 years less than people in other parts of the country. Many children suffer from severe malnutrition, and the child mortality rate is alarmingly high. The Quality of Life Index, a number that reflects basic living conditions, is 58% here, compared to 79% for the rest of Colombia. The economy is also extremely fragile. Most people rely on basic jobs like mining, fishing, or farming, but even those are risky and unstable. Mining may boost the national economy, but in Choco, it often brings pollution, conflict, and low pay, making poverty worse, not better. And this becomes a cycle. Poverty limits education and opportunity, and that in turn keeps people poor. It also pushes people to leave, especially the young, in search of work, safety, and a better life elsewhere. High unemployment. When poverty runs this deep, the next problem comes naturally. There just aren't enough jobs. In Choco, unemployment is around 70%, one of the highest rates in all of Colombia. For many people, especially young adults between 17 and 30, there's simply nothing to do and nowhere to work. So they leave, heading to bigger cities like Bogota, Medellin, or Cali, hoping for any kind of opportunity. Most of the region's economy depends on the government, not businesses. Private companies are rare here, which means real job creation is almost non-existent. Some families turn to subsistence farming, growing just enough food to survive, but even that doesn't offer long-term security. This kind of situation is called economic displacement. It doesn't come from war or violence. It comes from the quiet, constant pressure of not being able to make a living. People don't leave because they want to, they leave because they have to. Ongoing armed conflict and insecurity. But in parts of Colombia's Pacific coast, life isn't just hard, it's dangerous. This region has been caught in the middle of an armed conflict that's been going on since 1964. It's a complex war between the government, paramilitary groups, guerrilla fighters, and criminal gangs, all fighting for land, power, and control over things like drug routes and illegal mining. And it's the people, especially the poor, the indigenous, and the Afro-Colombian communities, who suffer most. Nearly 72% of Choco's population has been directly affected by the conflict, compared to just 13% nationally. These groups commit serious abuses: kidnapping, forced child recruitment, sexual violence, and even bombings in civilian areas. And drug money fuels the same armed groups that keep local people trapped in fear and poverty. Widespread illegal mining. On Colombia's Pacific coast, illegal gold mining is widespread, and it's destroying both the land and the people who live there. Armed groups make huge profits by controlling small, mechanized mining operations. They don't just demand protection money, they also rent out machines or run the mines themselves. The damage is massive. Mercury, used to separate gold, gets dumped straight into rivers, poisoning the water, killing fish, and hurting children's health. Deforestation strips the land bare, drying up streams and clogging rivers with sediment. Whole ecosystems and the traditional way of life for Afro-Colombian and indigenous communities are being wiped out. Women in mining camps often face harsh conditions, including poverty and violence, with little protection or rights. Health crisis. The healthcare system in Choco is among the weakest in the country. In many places, people have no access to medical care at all, especially in rural villages. Even basic treatment for things like fevers, infections, or childbirth can be hours or even days away, and the results are heartbreaking. Children under 5 in Choco die at much higher rates than the rest of the country. In one 3-month period back in 2016, around 50 children died from starvation, and nearly half of all babies didn't live past their first birthday. That's almost 10 times higher than the rate in the United States. Simple, treatable illnesses like malaria, diarrhea, and parasite infections kill dozens of children every year. Malnutrition, made worse by dirty water and poor housing, takes many more. In 2015, 37 children died from mercury poisoning, caused by illegal gold mining. And it's not just the children. Pregnant women face major risks. So do the elderly. This isn't just a crisis, it's a signal. A place where so many die from preventable illness is a place where families have no choice but to leave. Education. Without health, there's no future. But without education, there's no way forward. In Colombia's Pacific coast, education is in crisis. In some rural areas, entire communities struggle to read and write, a problem that touches every part of life. Many schools in Choco are in poor condition, some damaged by conflict or simply falling apart. And in the most remote villages, there are no teachers at all. Even when schools are open, families often can't afford uniforms or transportation, so kids stay home. And in today's world, digital access matters, right? But only 17% of rural students here have access to the internet or computers. So even when lessons are available, most children are left behind. Persistent state neglect and weak governance. Colombia's Pacific coast has suffered from decades, even centuries, of state neglect. In some areas, there's literally no government presence at all. No police, no social workers, no basic services, just people and the armed groups that control their lives. Even international help often just treats the symptoms. Food here, a clinic there, but doesn't build the long-term change people need to stay and thrive. For many in Choco, especially indigenous and Afro-Colombian communities, this lack of support feels like being forgotten by their own country. Without a strong and caring government to protect rights, provide services, and invest in the future, people are left vulnerable. And that makes it almost impossible to build a stable life. It's hard not to be moved by Colombia's Pacific coast, the ocean, the endless mangroves, the rain that never seems to stop, and most of all, the people, resilient, welcoming, and full of life, even in the face of enormous challenges. As we've seen, the low population density here isn't caused by just one thing. It's the result of many factors: climate, geography, conflict, poverty, and a lack of support, all tangled together. Each one makes the others harder to solve. And yet, in all that difficulty, there's still beauty, still hope. If you've ever been to this region, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments. Thanks for joining us on this journey through one of the most remarkable yet overlooked corners of South America. See you in the next video.